So the next thing in this counting type technique is permutation. A permutation is the number of different orders you can arrange R items when selected from a group of N items. You can use this on problems where order matters. We'll talk about this formula in just a second. What I want to do is kind of explain to you what that means. So if I take the letters A, B, and C, and I want to arrange those, I've got A, B, C, I've got A, C, B, I've got B, A, C, I've got C, A, B, I've got B, C, A, and I've got C, B, A. This is all the ways that I can arrange those three letters. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 ways to arrange all three of those letters. Okay, so notice that if I move the A and actually just move the B over here, then I have a whole nother way to arrange things. So there are sometimes order matters. Think about maybe a horse race or just a track race with individuals. You've got somebody that's going to come in first place, second place, third place. So the order that those people come in, or horses or whatever, would matter, okay? So you don't want to have to do this all the times, because sometimes you may have a lot of items and you may need to order them, and it can be very cumbersome. So the formula that's been generated, I could prove that for you, but I don't think you're interested. This means the total number of items taken. Okay, this is the group. There's your N. This is your total number of items taken R at a time. So like 2 at a time, 3 at a time, 4 at a time, etc. So the way we look at that, it is called N factorial. So the exclamation point is called a factorial. And it is a math operation, divided by N minus R, get that difference, factorial. So when we talk about what that thing means, N is an element, so this N right here is an element of, oh, this didn't translate, of the natural numbers. N is the natural numbers. What are the natural numbers? The natural numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're your counting numbers. Okay, so n factorial means I'm going to take n times n minus 1. So for example, if I have 4 factorial, that'll mean I take the number 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So we stop at 1. We multiply those values and we get 24. So that means 4 factorial is 24. You'll always get a positive number. You'll always get an integer out of that. So all this means is we start with the number given, and then we go down one less value until we hit 1 and we stop. So let's look at some examples of those before we come down here and work this problem. So 7 factorial means 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Clean up that 4. Okay. And when you put that in the calculator, so part of the thing is we need to understand how factorial works. We need to understand how to do it by hand. We also have a calculator function for factorial. So the first thing I want to show you how to do is to work these things by hand, so you've got some idea that of what's going on. So 7 factorial is 5,040. Okay, and what that's going to do a lot of times when we have some counting techniques, we're going to use that idea. It's also used very often in probabilities. So the next one is 11 factorial divided by 9 factorial. Now that is not 11 by 9. It is some big number divided by a number not as big. So what we have is 11 times 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 divided by 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Now, there is an easier way to do this, but let's crank through this first. Okay, everything's multiplied in the numerator, everything's divided in the denominator. So what I want you to notice, each one of those factors are going to divide out to a factor of 1, which is going to leave you with 11 times 10 over 1, which is just 11 times 10, which is just 110. Okay, so this is the answer to that. This is how you work it out by hand. Now let me show you a different way to write that. I can come up here and take this numerator and I can start out and I can call that 11 times 10 and then times. When I get to this business right here that divided out, that is 9 factorial. So I can put 9 factorial here, and I want to use that because there's a 9 factorial in the denominator, and those divide out, cancel out, divide to a factor of 1, and you still get that 110. Okay? So let's practice with the calculator a little bit. Let me find my calculator. Here we go. Okay, so your calculators do have a button, and they do them automatically. Again, there is value to knowing how to do that by hand because sometimes these numbers can get so large that your calculator will overflow. So you have to know how to handle these by hand. And my goal is to lay my calculator up here on my screen so that you could see it. The first thing I do want to do is show you how this goes in the formula because I think there's value to that. Okay, so N is my numerator. This is N. This is R. So I have 10 items taken 4 at a time. So I've got 10 factorial over 10 minus 4 factorial. Again, I'm going to do this by hand to show you that it is possible. 10 minus 4 is 6. So then I can calculate that and go, well, that's 10 times 9 times 8 times 7. Now I have a 6 factorial in the denominator, so I'm going to end or stop at 6 factorial in the numerator. Those divide out. So what I have is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7. 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 is 5,040. All right, so now let me show you how to put that in your calculator. So if you've got this one, the TI-30XS, okay, so what you're going to do, you've got this probability button right here, okay? So what you need to think of is go back to your notes. You want to enter the 10. This is the number of total items. You want to hit the probability button. This is a random variable. You want PRB highlighted, and you'll notice that your first choice is our permutation formula. This is your combination formula, and looky there, there's your factorial button. So we want to select this here. So I'm going to select the first choice, and then I'll follow it with my 4, and then I'll hit enter, and there is your 5040. Okay? If you have this calculator, the TI-30X2S, I know some of y'all do use that one in class. It's the same idea. There's your probability button. So what you're going to want to do is hit your total number of outcomes. There's your 10. There's your probability button. Okay, here's your permutation, here's your combination, there's your factorial. So we're going to hit that first choice, hit number 1. The second choice, you would hit a 2. And then what happened? Oh, that is incorrect. Hang on, let me figure out how to do this. Okay, I've got 10 permutation. Okay, that one's underlined. If I want to get to the next one, I hit my arrow over key. So I'm going to hit that one. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to hit 4. And you get the 50/40. Okay? So now let's look at this 20. In the formula, this is what it means. I think it's always good to know that. Which really, if you had to do this by hand, that would be 20 factorial divided by 12 factorial. But we can also do this one in the calculator. So we've got the 20. Let me scoot this over a little bit. We've got the 20. Hit your probability. It's under. The underlining is the number of permutations. We're going to hit enter. We're going to follow that with an 8 taken at a time. And we get this fantastically large number. It's going to look like that. So that's a 5 billion number. Okay, so if we want to do this calculator, just to touch all points, so we're going to enter, that was 28, so we're going to go 20. Probability, we're going to select the 1, we're going to enter with the 8, and there is your 5 billion number. So that's how you're going to handle that one with the calculator. You can practice on this one. Okay, let's just do, let's not work that one yet. I don't know how I want to teach you that one yet. But let's say you've got this divided by that. All right, so either calculator, you've got 90 permutation. We're going to divide that by 88. And actually, I am absolutely wrong. That is 90 factorial. So let's go back to probability. Let's hit 3 for factorial. And we're going to divide that by 88 probability factorial. And you get an overflow error. Okay? What does that mean? That means there's not enough memory in the calculator to do that problem. So we've got 90 probability. Let's arrow over to factorial with the other calculator. Divided by 88 probability. Arrow over to that. Okay. And over there you get that same overflow message. So what do? Well, then that's when you have to know how to do these by hand. So I have 90 times 89 times, and there's 88 factorial. So I don't have to list 88, 87, 86 all the way down to 1. That would be ridiculous. Okay, those divide to a factor of 1. Now, you can easily now enter that in your calculator. 90 times 89. Oops. Let's clear that out. Let's clear that out. 90 times 89. And so you can easily, that's 8,010. So that is 8,010. So just be aware, your calculator could explode over this one. And if you want to just not have to write things down, just go 79 times 78 times 77 factorial divided by 77 factorial. I personally think it's much more efficient to just enter in a couple of factors and just hit multiplication and be done with it. So you've learned several things here. You've learned permutation, where order does matter. If you rearrange things in an order, it counts as an order. You've learned factorial. You've learned how to do these by hand. You've learned the formula. You've learned how to use the calculator and how to handle the problem if it overloads your calculator.